Oh, Brandon Block, welcome to Escape the Rat Race Radio. How are you doing today?
Mate, it's so lovely to see you again. I remember when we first spoke, well, we knew each other, but I mean, when we spoke actually in person, not through technology and in face-to-face 2 years ago at Nick's Expert Empires, you mentioned to me about getting my Amazon account and selling my extra record bags, which never happened.
You still got a few sat in the garage, have you?
No, you know what? I actually sold on it. You did inspire me or motivate me to get them on eBay again, and I sort of put a message out on Facebook. Went, look, the last Blocks boxes are around. Who wants them? And they went, yeah. So I sold them all. But
there you go. Well, look, it's great to have you on the show today, Brandon. And we've got kind of a double reason to chat today. Obviously, we both got music industry background. Of course, you're much more famous than I am for the music industry days. But we could touch on that in a minute. And then, of course, when we did connect a couple of years ago, and shout out to Nick James, obviously a previous guest of Escape the Rat Race Radio. I was like, wow, Brandon's really, he's really into this personal development stuff as well. And we sort of kept the conversation going a little bit, and then I interviewed Brian Main a couple of episodes ago, and Brian's a good buddy of yours. You're now working together, and we're going to find out more about that. And Brian said, do you know Brandon? I said, yeah, of course I do. And I got back in touch, and here we are. So, as I say, fantastic to have you on the show today.
And he's a wonderful man. And hi to Nick James as well.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a pleasure, mate. And, I the more I do it, the more I enjoy talking about what we're all about now, because it's such a great learning experience on a level of humanity. And I'm not away with the fairies, or this is just stuff that has become apparent in the last, and it's been out there for God knows how. I mean, the philosophers wrote about this stuff. If you read what they wrote and just translate it into the modern day, it's all out there, all this stuff, personal development, they all knew it. It's just that if you go back to the book Sapiens and read about the cognitive revolution, those were the clever ones.
I know.
They were the ones who thought, hold on, there's a, and how do you now manage a race of people who are really, reproducing at a very rapid rate? How do you actually make any sense of this whole new species, let's say, which has now depleted all the others, by the way? Yeah. And then you get control, and you get systems, and you get sort of people who are cognitively slightly better than the others, and then start preaching, or start teaching, or start suggesting things, and everyone goes, oh yes, like the sound of that, and then it becomes a system, and then over the years it becomes an entrenched underpinning system, and then you can't change it. And now where we are today is no different. In fact, it's probably just probably more difficult to live in this world now, because of lots of things that are gone, because it moves so fast.
Yeah, it's tough to handle, and our topic of conversation today is really the subject of happiness, right? Which is what we're talking about here. How do you find more happiness in your life? And this is Escape the Rat Race Radio. A lot of people that come to Escape the Rat Race events, they're unhappy for some reason or other, and they're moving away from something. We talk about like this carrot and stick thing, and often it's the stick. It's, I don't like my boss, I don't like my life, I haven't got enough money. It always focusing on the things they haven't got and they don't like. But actually it's about actually flipping that around and saying, okay, well, what do you want? What would make you happy? What is important in your life? And Brandon, before we maybe dive into this subject a bit more, I think it puts some context around things. If maybe you don't mind, just give a little bit of background to your story for our listeners, for anyone who might not know the Brandon Block story, right? Just tell us a bit about, where you've been over the past few years.
Okay, so all right. Well, just briefly, because it could go on. So from in the early '90s, I was a very successful DJ. I suppose if you say successes, I'm still working, so I'm successful still today. I thank good and touch wood and everything else. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But back in the day, also I got involved in a very, very serious drug problem. So much so that I was given 2 weeks to live. When I decided, by the grace of having an incredible awareness, waking up experience, where I was actually teetering on whether I was going to be alive or not, this moment came to me, and I think we now know it was rock bottom, but really rock bottom, and I had no other options. There was nothing else I could do in my life, and I decided that I wasn't the physical illnesses I'd collected through my my overzealous behaviour, let's say. included hepatitis, TB, chemical depression through to the use of substances. And I was a walking time bomb, ready to sort of, keel over at any moment. So I chose not to do that because it was just too much pain, and I was enough for putting myself through the pain. But the thing was, back in those days, you weren't able to just go somewhere and go, oh, look, this is my, it's very difficult. It's stigmatized. It was ostracized, and if you came out, and I did, Mixed Mag did an interview on me, and I was the first sort of person to be in the dance music scene, I suppose, to be interviewed because of that, that problem. But it led me to a place. I went to a detox. The psychiatrist there, who's the consultant psychiatrist for the whole of Chelsea and Westminster in London, he's a top at his game. He's my saviour. He's my life saviour. If I wasn't for him, I don't think I'd be here today. He took me in that hospital, and he, whatever else went on, group work, all that stuff, he was the one he was my go-to sort of saviour. He's now my mentor because of the work I do was doing in the, in the alcohol and drugs field. He used to take my caseload. So you need to hand over every so often, right? And if you have complex needs cases, which I did, he would say, bring it to me as well. So, and obviously there's no confidentiality because he's in the profession. So, so moving forward, I mean, look, I was very lucky to be alive, and I am grateful to this day, but, it led me on a journey which has now led me to where I am today. So during that path, I've sort of, although I was still DJing every week, I didn't feel that I was still fulfilled emotionally and spiritually, or if you want to describe it like that. My soul wasn't, my music was wonderful, but I was still missing some stuff inside, emotionally probably, because, once you change your brain set, which it was, I changed it with I took so much, stuff. My brain had all rewired and altered to function. So I had to rewire it. And, back then you weren't aware of neuroplasticity or the fact that you can rewire your brain, but you just have to sit through everything and just go through every single new anxiety as it comes. Because everything's like a new anxiety then. It's like a new fear. You're like a newborn baby. And, their fear is loud noises and falling. But, we have not only loud noises and falling, but we have the world of life to be fearful of when we're not in that safe space, which we weren't any longer. So it went on like that for a bit. I was determined. I never went back. I never decided that, it was too much for me, and I just fought through it, whether by hook or crook. I don't know how you want to describe it. I went straight back to Ibiza, carried on DJing, didn't change my friends, just kept with the same people. My friends who are still friends to this day, and I value. My family supported me. I had a good network of support, I think. But it was a lot of just grin and bear it. Just go through it. So anyway, further down the line, I get to a place in like 2010 where I'm sort of feeling a bit at loss in life, a bit where we are now, really. But I was back then, thank God I found it then. And I decided that I had the innate urge to sort of give back, help people. I think it's within us somewhere. So I went to the local drug and alcohol service, and I approached them and said I'd like to volunteer if I could. And it turns out the manager was a friend of mine who I hadn't seen for a long time. But she said, it'd be lovely. Yes, you can, but you can't just walk here thinking you know everything, because it's not like that. And there's me thinking I know everything. I'm going to just come and tell them how it is. And she said, no, it doesn't work like that. It's just, we approach things holistically. We look at the person. It's person-centered. It's not about you and it's not about your story. It's about your experience and how that can help in certain ways. So anyway, I did that job. I got some really good outcomes, and that's when my let's say my infamy, or whatever you want to describe it as, came into play, because a lot of people knew who I was and had heard of my antics, as well as my not doing my antics, and stopping doing everything in '96. So it was I'd always thought of it as a sort of negative thing, but it was actually a positive thing. Because people were saying, oh wow, if Brandon Block's helping me, or if Brandon can do it, I can do it, and it made that whole an empowering experience, I suppose. Anyway, so I then worked in the NHS after that. The treatment system changed slightly. It was taken over by the Central Northwest London Middlesex HMS NHS Trust. They brought their model in, and the model for me wasn't empathic enough. It wasn't, because then it was about ticking boxes. and not actually really getting down with people.
Yeah.
It's changed a bit now again, but you know, for me then it was just like I'm not just going to ask questions and leave them. You know, I want to go and work more intensely. So I found this other job with the NHS, which turned out to be really draining emotionally and mentally for me. I burnt out actually because we weren't getting the support we needed afterwards.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, we were working with very intense, entrenched, chaotic people, multiple complex needs, which means mental health, drugs and alcohol, crime, and homelessness. And I was going outreach to see them on the streets in various bed sits or, you know, hostels or whatever. It was really, you know, it's quite...
That really opens your eyes to what's going on in the country,
you know,
right?
You think, hold on, look at the world we live in. It's like, you know, you can go into Watford town centre and yet you can walk under a bridge over there. It's like a completely different world. Anyway, at the end of that, I got burnt out and I left there, and that's when I got asked to go on Celebrity Big Brother. Anyway, so not the best mindset to be going in there with. And I actually realised I didn't know why I had gone in the house, because I didn't know. I was asking myself these questions, sitting there, what am I doing there? What am I trying to achieve? What's my goal? What's my purpose? Do I want to be on telly again? Do I want to be a reality TV star, or, you know, something? Do I want to start a TV career again? And for me, that it was just, it didn't resonate. It wasn't, after being what I've been doing for that long, it wasn't something that, you know, that made my heart sing anymore. I mean, I could do it in a different capacity now, doing this work, because that's going to be, you know, need to be addressed soon on TV somewhere, something like a show people can actually relate to.
Yeah.
By people who've been there.
Yeah.
But then, so you know, I walked out the house with no shame, and everyone said it was, you know, I had integrity. I didn't, you know, I just wasn't for me. I wasn't, you know, I wasn't prepared to put myself through therapy on telly. I had to do it myself, and I need to do it when I'm ready, not in front of a TV camera. So that was that, and then I came out and I did feel very, very emotionally drained, and I thought, Christ, I need to do something. I need to get back on an even keel, at least get back into a frame of sort of, you know, happiness. And I went to a Tony Robbins event, which I found incredible. I'm not going to lie, I loved it. UPW, I embraced the experience, and I embraced that world as such. As you said, that's why I went on that whole, you know, the seminar world you do. Yeah. But then rapidly, because of the work I do, I saw that very corporate side, and I thought, I don't know if that works for me. Do you know, and I spoke to people who, you know, that they don't want to admit that they've made mistakes, but when they invest lots of money and don't achieve their goals, and then they feel worse. Yep. Because not only have they invested money and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing by being held accountable, because they just, you know, life's changed or something's not worked. You know, life changes on a daily basis. We know on a weekly, a minute to minute basis. So if it's been unrealistic for them to achieve those targets and to achieve those goals in the time set, and there's no, you know, allowances, let's say, or they don't give themselves allowances, do they? Because they beat themselves up, and that's what people do. You've got to allow yourself to make mistakes, allow yourself to experience other things, and if you can, but this is the other stuff I've learned. It's difficult to put into practice because, you know, we're programmed to think black and white. Catastrophize. It's never going to work. It's never worked once. It'll never work. Yeah. Look at me. I'm always a failure. I'm never going to be achieving it.
And the onset of social media now, where everyone has got this kind of double life of, hey, everything's amazing, but you're not seeing behind the scenes, are you, half the time?
Well, this is it, mate. And this is the fundamental flaw now. And this is going to be so difficult to sort of manage. The comparisons we live by. We don't live as ourselves, right? It's very difficult to be ourselves in our true self now with this world, because you are looking at other people's worlds all day long, and you're comparing it with, secretly, subconsciously comparing yourselves and saying, look at that, would I like to be there? Would I want that car? Do I want that? I look like that. I want that body. I want this. It's no longer a, wow, I can achieve that body, because you've seen things that actually other people who are very good at doing, and, you know, the motivation to do that and the way you have to cut yourself off or just focus, it's difficult and it's not realistic. You know, it's great that there's always someone who's going to do it or has a different life to you, or, you know, so if you see someone who does the weight program loss and does lose 4 stone in 2 months, they probably focused completely on that.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe not a lot else going on in their life. Possibly, I'm only hypothesizing or whatever. It's not necessarily true, but I'm saying that the comparisons and the expectations, we are expected by what we see to be better than we are, as opposed to just being who we are and getting on with life and saying, well, this is me, and accept me for me. I love me. You know, you don't have to love me, but you're going to talk. It'd be nice if you at least accept me for what I am. And this is why everything's going in the mental health world. It's why everyone's complaining of being depressed. And yes, life's stressful. Yes, and the expectations of work, the expectations of targets, the expectations of what we have to achieve, the expectations of the people we have to be, the expectations of how we look, how we talk, what we don't say, what we can't say, what we, it's just complete rules.
Yeah. So
we find it hard to live by because we're expressive creatures, aren't we? Christ.
Yeah. So I'm sure people listening now, Brandon, they kind of may well be nodding their head and saying, yeah, I get it. Yeah, my kids, I can see how difficult and complex their life is now growing up because, as you said, there's a million more things to have to worry about than perhaps there were 10, 20 years ago. So the question is, what can someone do about this, Brandon? And what are you now doing with Happy Days to try and address this?
Well, look, let's get on to it. I was explaining how the world works. I don't want it to sound, very depressing. Look, it's daunting. I think the word, not depressing. Look, depressing. I'm sure if you're aware of this, if you say something, your subconscious mind will know what it is, and it will then head towards that feeling, word, description, whatever it is. So if you say I'm depressed, you'll be depressed. If you say I'm happy and smile, you won't. It'll be very hard for you to turn down your mouth and go, oh, I'm happy. You can't actually go. If you say I'm happy, you will smile. If you say I'm depressed, you can't smile. But if you say I'm happy, you will find it hard to be depressed. But there's a lot of things in language and the way we use language and what we say to ourselves, because over the years, the programming has been taught to us, and the words that describe things, our brain picks them up. So if a description was made to us when we were learning about being happy, joy, happiness, blah, blah, blah. Although, contentment, kindness, compassion, ecstasy, ecstatic, jubilation, euphoria. All these wonderful words, they're great, but you've got to say them over and over to make it work, because this is where... So, Happy Days. Now, I want to just explain one more thing before we get into the Happy Days thing, because... Something changed for me this week, and something's changing for me every week now, and I know it's on a positive level. Whether it's something about awareness or something about how I think and what triggers me, etc. It's something's changing each week, so it's a great learning experience, a great journey. It's happy, but all those lovely words, the ones that describe our innate happiness, which we are, we aim for pleasure. We want. However, it is often instant gratification we're after as human beings, because it's the quick fix, and it changes. It's why people use substances and do things which are not necessarily great for them, because they work quickly. Trouble is, when they work quickly and you then have to go back to the reality of it, and you're still not happy with the reality, you want to go and change it again. So you go for the quickest option, because the human wants instant gratification. So they go, doom, doom, doom. What's the quickest way? What's the quick way? I could go for a 10-mile run, but I could also call him up and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it's what's the easiest route and the quickest way to get to it. So everyone's like that, in a way. They'll always find something they like doing, and, subconsciously they'll just do it automatically after a while. That's how you program yourself, by repetition. Anyway, so think about that. Those happy words and happy experiences are really... Now, if you go to therapy, right, often people do. We can say therapy now because everyone does it. I do it a lot. I mean, I have to, especially in the job I did. They say, sometimes, let's go to your happy place. Let's go to your happy place. You got to go to your happy place. You got to go and find it. You got to sit there for 10 minutes until you can zone out from the world and get into your happy place. Whereas if you can just wake up happy and just take life, and look, it's not easy to do. It's difficult. It really is, because, the first thing you do in the morning, what do? You pick your phone up.
Yep.
Everyone does it. I don't do it anymore. I'm not doing that. No way. So I use it as an alarm, but I turn it off. I've got no Wi-Fi on. I've got nothing on. There's an alarm because it's no notifications. I don't want to see what's going on in the world until I'm. And it works, believe you me, because as soon as you get embroiled in that in the morning, your day is started, and you've started in yesterday's behaviour, because you're only continuing what yesterday's were like.
Yeah.
And you if you don't achieve, the thing that amazes me is bloody hell screen time. When we had normal jobs, 9 to 5, let's say, right, hour for lunch, 2 tea breaks. When would you ever get a chance to look at a screen, unless you're a VDU operator? When would you get a chance to look at a screen in your hand, or a Nintendo, let's say back in the day, 7 hours, or 6 hours, or 5 hours, or 4, or 3 minutes even? You're working. How does that work? I don't get it. It's like, even me, I look at myself, I've never picked that bloody thing up 142 times today.
It's unbelievable.
That.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm digressing a bit. So the happiness thing. So I was sitting after my experience of the Tony Robbins thing, and then coming into this world, and I met so many people who've come from Clubland who are on this journey of just well-being, let's say, developing themselves. I met out with a few people. We had some great stories, and we sat in my little shed, which you can't see because I blurred it out, but.
Yeah, you got to check the video if you're listening right now on podcast. We've got some special fancy video graphics going on today, haven't we, Brandon?
Love it. You can blur out your Skype screen. So anyway, where was I? Yes, so I met some people. We had some great, just some really great discussions, some lovely talks. We cried. We talked about, our previous lives and what had gone on and all the trauma, and we know what affected us and how we've dealt with it, and now how we're just a great, being able to speak about it and, have a position of just being aware of it. And it's changing. It's such a dramatic change. I can describe it, but a wonderful experience. And we decided that with my experience, what I learned in the drug and alcohol field, which is not unique, it transcends all worlds. It's just thinking. It's behaviour cycles, it's actioning behaviour, and it's just repeating those same bad behaviours and changing them with good behaviours. But without the tools, you're not going to be able to know that you're actually in it, and you're just doing it because autonomously. So we decided that we would come up with some way that, everyone's got a morning routine, and we know that's very important, but often it's difficult to do those very, very, very difficult, powerful, all-encompassing meditation stuff. And it's not always fits in everyone's lives, but what you need is a quick fix, I say, because it's easy and it's not so difficult to do. So once you do start doing it with a small goal, you want to achieve bigger ones. So I suppose for me, it would be we would start saying, so we change something, just something in the behaviours you usually do in the morning over a period of a month. Just say it's your phone. And I mean, this has been spoken about so often now, about putting your phone down at night and just don't answer it, which I do. I turn it off mostly at 7:30, 8 o'clock max. And if I do overrun, it's because I've been out and, I like to talk to the missus, but, she lives up north. But generally, if you turn that off and don't watch telly necessarily, or watch something on YouTube slightly more intriguing, over that time, you will feel better. And even if you change the way you get out of bed, even if you change and make your bed every morning and look at it, it might feel weird at first. It really does, because even I started doing it, a couple of years ago, and just actually making the bed. You stand back and you think, it's quite strange. I've achieved. And you know what? Everything you do is a goal. Yeah.
But that fires off things in your mind and your head, right? In your brain. And that's good stuff that, as you say, it keeps compounding if you can do little by little.
Absolutely. I've achieved a goal. I've got out of bed. I've not laid in. I've got up when the alarm went off. I've made my bed. That is a priming routine on its own. Because you sort of tell yourself subconsciously, I'm ready to go and do my stuff now. Yeah. And whatever time that is, that's the time you get up. As long as it's that time you get up and do it. See, but that will give you that will also not take you into a negative state straight away.
Yeah.
So if you start compounding with less interaction, let's say with the world, which is not necessary at that time in the morning, nothing's going to change in half an hour.
Yeah. I guess it's focused. It's giving you time, isn't it? Rather than you just being reactive to everything else going on in the world, it's having that little bit of space. And I know you work obviously with Brian, and Brian's very big on the goal setting. And a lot of people listening right now probably have read books like The Miracle Morning and, you know, have tried affirmations and things like this, you know, vision boards and all of this good stuff. Like, what's your views on some of those things?
I think, you know what, now, a few years ago, I'd have said poppycock, like a lot of people may have done. But what I realise is now that these things are, you know, this has just come to me. All these books, right, which are from Wowee people, right? And I'm talking about, I mean Wowee sarcastically, I mean, you know, brilliant people who've written some fantastic books. They're just aware. They've discovered their awareness at different times. And what's become apparent to them is that they can change the way they feel, the way they think, the way that they look at life by putting some fundamental rules into place, which most, and you know, I'm not saying everyone can do it. I mean, everyone wants to do it, but if you want to change your life, it's doable. You just got to take some action about it. And whether that's making you think, you know, in the morning, whether it's, you know, I'm taking you out of that place of being, you know, constantly, what's on today, you know, instead of saying, right, what are we going to do today then? Even by changing your state or your way you say it. If I say to you, oh God, I've got to do that today, right? A colleague of mine who used to work for us, he doesn't anymore, he came up with a great one. He said, what am I getting to do today?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. And Robert Kiyosaki always says that about, you know, instead of saying I don't have enough money or I can't afford it, just change the question. How can I afford it? You know, little things like that, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah,
well, this is like this is like an NLP thing or a motivation interviewing. You ask an open-ended question, so there's no like a yes or no answer. But so how can I change this to make it work for me?
Yeah.
Reframe it. You know, it's like the failure, isn't it? It's never going to bloody work. Oh, I've done that. Oh God, it's the same thing's happening. Oh, it always does that. I had a prime example yesterday, right? So. And I've learned so many tools. There's a great tool I use, right? Here's an example. I'll give you an example. It's called an ABC, and it's used in smart recovery, which is just a smart recovery uses a model called REBT. It's very similar to CBT, very similar to NLP, but it's called Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, right? But if you break down those words, it means, you know, controlling the emotion around and rationalizing the behaviors which attach to the emotions. Mm-hmm. How you act on your feelings and your emotions, you know, because we often react, don't we? So if we get the ump and our initial reaction, because it's been taught to us, is in fight or flight, is to either threaten, go and fight, or run away, right?
Yeah.
So, but because there's no saber-toothed tigers and no mammoths stamping on us, or no tribes actually running around the corner with spears trying to kill us, our frustration is taken out on our human who drives on the wrong, you know, pulls out. Mm-hmm. Or who pushes in the queue in front of us, or gets the last curly whirly when you go to the shop. You know what I mean? And, you know, so the tool I use in the morning, one of the tools I'm used to using now, and it just is automatic, is an ABC, and it's about, and it's going to work for anything, right? It can transcend any situation. Now, if you're listening on radio, just try this, right? Next time something winds you up, whatever it may be. And don't forget, the key here is that when you get wound up, often it's only you getting wound up. If your anger or frustration is directed at someone else, it's often not told to them, and they probably won't even know about it.
Yeah.
Maybe something they've done, or something they have mistakenly done, or even if it's directed at you and it's a behavior, you have to be mindful of how it affects you, because that's all that matters. Because if they can call you whatever they want. If you take it, or they can say whatever they want, if you take it personally, it will affect you.
Yeah.
If you can just say, thank you for that information, I appreciate your input, not only will it get their back up, but you will feel so much better about it yourself. And although it's difficult, but you can practice that.
You know what? That's fantastic. And that reminds me, I went to Thailand and did a 10-day silent retreat in March, actually, this year. And we had a Buddhist monk. We sat on top of a hill on Koh Phangan, right? Buddhist monk for 7 days, teaching us, you know, how to meditate properly. It was fantastic. But he said something very similar to that, Brandon. He said there's 3 types of problem. There's either your problem, their problem or both your problem. If it's their problem, they have to fix it. If it's your problem, you have to fix it. If it's both your problems, you got to fix it together.
Totally. But and it's true. I mean, I thought you were going to say I was on a silent retreat in Yang as a Buddhist monk, but he wouldn't fucking shut up. Turn it in, will you? Trying to get some kid here.
Whilst we're on the topic of meditation now, I mean, I've really kept it up now. I meditate every morning, every evening, and I used to be a bit of a workaholic, and it's easy when you start your own business, you're so into it that you literally, it's all you think about, and you just go work. But it doesn't do you any good, right? And you really do start burning out. And I released my book last year, and at Christmas I just felt literally burnt out. Everything was just too much, and the meditation has really helped me now. So is that something that you've experienced at all for yourself?
Again, I'm like you, my mind is all over the place all the time. However, I did a meditation this morning. I like Joe Dispenza. I love what he says because he was my break. When you find someone you really like, what they say, because it resonates with you. Mm-hmm. Well, he said something which for me was the key to opening up my what I knew. I didn't know how to articulate it. So I'll explain it to you. So over the years, through my journey, let's say, right, of discovery, I knew there was a reason why I behaved or thought the way I did, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't realise. So I knew I'd stopped taking drugs, right? And I thought, it's a long time now. Why do I still want these real, deep, horrible thoughts processes? And I thought there's a reason. And I went to my psychiatrist, Dr. Shannon, and I said, look, tell me what this sounds like to you. And I said, look, when I was in the club scene, big full time, I had lots of drama, lots of madness, lots of hedonism. And now I'm not. I don't get drama. Is that why I take myself to a place of drama to get it? He went, clues in the name. You just answered your own question. And I thought, bloody hell, that's what it is. And then Joe Dispenza comes along, right, who's a neuroscientist and also studies a genetic scientist, sorry. It's not in your genes, all this stuff. You can change your genetic model by thinking differently and, sending messages. He cured himself of a back injury, which was, multiple vertebrae out and all that stuff by meditation. He's also... and I'll tell you a bit more in a minute. But so he said, and he said, oh my God, that's what it is. That's why I couldn't explain, because it's a scientific answer, right? Your body becomes like your third mind. So you have an experience which you experience with your senses, good or bad, whatever it is, right? Whatever that experience is, you'll get a neural pathway to remind you, or memory, or an experience of it. That creates a feeling or an emotion. The emotion creates a chemical reaction in your body. Your brain releases chemicals regardless. So if it's a happy one, you'll get dopamine and serotonin, adrenaline maybe, oxytocin. If it's a negative one, you get cortisone. Because we're so used to functioning within the stress levels, i.e. the negative stress, we get cortisone released a lot. Mm-hmm. Cortisol, sorry. Our default is our bodies are used to those negative experiences. You get me? Because we look at all the stuff every day on the thing and go, like news and all that, and then also all the negative chemicals is because it's about war or about famine or about the world being collapsing or governments or the usual stuff that we all live by. So our default place is of not feeling great, but it's good. It changes the way we feel from normal. We get a reaction, a release of chemicals which our body wants, the addict in us. And I went, wow, this is it. I know why I react, because my body's now become the governor. Mm. So if you wake up in the morning, you're not thinking, you're meditating, but you feel, my back, or my leg, or my whatever. You started because your body's got the go-to chemical release, isn't it? Yeah. So it goes there without even thinking about it first. And then once you've got the feeling, your body's got the reaction from the chemical, your brain then goes, what can we think about? We'll think about the pain. And wherever else it's resonating, whatever else we can think about, which is bad, and then you open your daily routine. So, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hope it does for everyone. I'm not sure if it's understandable, but that was a light bulb moment for me. And meditation, Yeah, I mean, yes, I do it. I'm not an avid meditator, but I did it last night. I did it this morning because I'm actually quite intense. I do Wim Hof breathing now because
Okay, yeah.
if you do a 60-round Wim Hof, you meditate because you're just concentrating on your breathing, and whatever thinking you're actually concentrating on not thinking.
Yeah.
You will drift off, but you come back, and because you hold your breath and you're oxygenizing your body, if you take it deep enough, you can get into trance, real deep trance, because you're not breathing now. You're not using oxygen. So in theory, your immune system and your pineal gland and the third eye and all that come into, because they start working, because there's no blood. They start autonomously working, and then you start going into trance. But you hold your breath for 2 minutes when you finish your breathing. But on 3 or 4, there's 10 rounds you can do up to. But you wake up feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a great way to start the day, in all honesty.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone listening has not heard of Wim Hof, check out YouTube. There's some great videos on there, aren't there? It's funny actually, Brandon, because when I was like logging into Skype to speak to you, I thought, look, what I'm currently reading at the moment just happens to be the Art of Happiness, right, by the Dalai Lama. And Dalai Lama, he says, we're born to be gentle, compassionate human beings, right? And he describes it where I'm at the moment in the book as almost like learning a language. Our brain has a part that can open up if you give it and expose it to different languages. It can absorb and grow. And the same with compassion. If you actually practice it, practice being kind and happy, and you can expand that and become a more rounded, have a happier life. And so I just want to dig deeper into the work that you're doing with Happy Days and the people as well that are part of this with you, Brandon, because I know you pulled in some experts, haven't you? So you really kind of got the full scope to help people here.
So carrying on from what you're saying, excuse me everyone, I'm just having a little bit of a popcorn. Proper popcorn. Watching me calories. So so we came up with the concept. So it'll be a happier day when you do something different in the morning. And generally after 2, 3, 4 months, you I don't know if you're aware, everyone, you resonate, so you vibrate on levels. I don't feel myself vibrating, but the brain's working at certain times through the night. It cycles. And the first time you wake up in the morning, when you're beginning to wake up, is the best learning time. It's when you're in alpha. Brian knows about this.
Yeah.
Brian's a great one to listen to. Alpha or theta or beta. I think alpha's the main one where you learn the best at your first thing in the morning. It's when you're most alert. Beta is like your and I think theta is, don't quote me on that, but it's those three anyway. So we thought, right, so happier on a daily basis, not necessarily, buying into everything that's showed to you and you're given to watch or whatever. And then we sort of came down, and this leads on to my experience of personal development. And I thought, well, why? All these people I'm speaking to, these wonderful people, these practitioners, they all come from a background. They've all got a story. They didn't just arrive at this path. They didn't all of a sudden go, I'm going to help people. They're not Jesus. He had a journey. God, so everyone who you come to it, I think Mother Teresa, all those wonderful people, and the Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, they all have an innate, to help humanity. But we all have it, I'm sure. Anyway, so I thought, Christ, I said, look, I want to interview you. And everyone was going, I'd love to be interviewed by you, because I started doing Facebook Live interviews just because I wanted to speak to people. And I saw that people would share this stuff, and I thought, oh, well, maybe I can do some interviews and share their story on my platform, on my page, which I did, started doing it. And then we realised that by getting all the people that we speak and saying, look, do you want it? We'll make a hub. We'll build something where you can all share your works or your project, your programs as such, and do an affiliate, which, a subscription page, which is very cheap. But you get all the content, and then if you're a member, you can then decide if you want to work with an individual and say, no, I really like that person, I'm going to approach them for. But then because they're on Happy Days, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
And but that wasn't the thing. Happy Days, we're in cahoots, let's say, or we're working alongside some really great people who post on Facebook every day. Let's Talk, a guy called John Shotton, who I interviewed, who's just incredible, posts every day 5 or 6 things about mental health, and let's talk and let's get it out there. 1 year no beer. We're in cahoots with them a little bit. We're going to do some talks with them, and we've got Happy Days workshops where Brian's involved. We work alongside the Stress Management Society. My friend Neil Shah, great model. He goes into a company and audits from board down where the stress lies. Wow. And where it's impacting and where it's going to be the best place to start working on this stuff. Because obviously, if you think when the board's stressed. Yeah,
I was going to say, I bet people listening now are saying, God, if you just sort my boss out, my life would be a whole lot easier, right?
Maybe then that if they're working and 9 to 5 and they're not happy with the boss, maybe if they can say to themselves, well, you know what, maybe he's stressed out and this is not personal to me. This is just him or her crumbling under the stresses of work, and by the shareholders or the board members saying we aren't beating targets, where's our investment going? And then obviously the people lower down the run will get it.
Ooh, that's it. Like you said, the resonation, isn't it? So if someone's resonating and vibrating at a stressed level, it's just going to ripple and affect everyone, isn't it?
Of course it is. And this is the thing that Happy Days is about. Look, creating awareness, which I think, look, for me, when you go into these places, you get big words and large corporate environments. It's frightening, right? And if you're just bod like us, run-of-the-mill people, just living our normal lives, maybe not so normal, but fairly normal in the grey area of life. We're not Bill Gates, and we're not, elsewhere. We're just in that level, but we have our issues on a daily basis. So if we're aware of this is actually not us. We're often functioning under the stresses of our subconscious, protector, surviving, because it's all about survival, isn't it? Mm. So but because we're impacted with all the stuff we're impacted with now, we're surviving. We're thinking we're dodging bullets all day long. What's going to be the next thing? Oh, it happens in freeze, or oh God, that's happening. And every day you think, oh, what have I got to be fearful of? What have I got to be fearful of? Yeah. That's that mindset. Yeah. Change it and say, look, what will be will be. I mean, I know it sounds very easy to, and I mean this is not easy to do. It's bloody hard. Yeah. It took me a long time, years to get to where I'm now. It's been a long journey and a very fruitful, but a very times very hard. Yeah.
It reminds me, Tony Robbins said that the two biggest fears people have, fear number one, that I'm not enough, I'm not wealthy enough, I'm not, pretty enough, whatever it might be. And then that leads to fear number two, which if I'm not enough, then I won't be loved. Would you add anything to that at all? What do you think people are? What do you think's making people unhappy? Is there anything primarily? Is it money? Is it don't have a partner? Is it?
It's a number of. It's a whole world of things, and each thing is individual to each person, obviously, because they have different problems in their lives, right? So, I'm not enough is generally something that comes from childhood. I'm a firm believer in that because although we don't think. Only now because the information available to us is now readily available. Often it would have been pediatricians or people who work with children who would have been known, maybe had an idea that if through our parenting it would impact us later in life. But that wasn't the norm 25, 30 years ago. That was just our parents were just doing what they were taught and what they were taught before them. So if you put a baby down when it's crying, the baby, that's a pathway. I'm not loved. The first thing they want when they come out of the womb is nurture, which is why they put them with their mum straight away. Oh, okay, it has to be incubated, but generally, yep. They're with the parents, and if you put a baby down and it's crying, it will take that as a rejection. So I'm not enough is probably transcends from that sort of era, but also through our lives when you expectations, comparisons. Well, come on, why can't you do that? He can do it. Expectations. I'm not good enough. Oh, look at that dress. Look at that suit. Look at that Ferrari. Oh, I'll never have one of them. I'm not good enough. Look at that big house. Never have one of them. Not good enough. Yeah. Every day through our lives, we're how you monitor success is also another thing. So if you can take if success is you being happy, then you're a long way to winning.
And like we said earlier, it's small changes, isn't it? It's just changing that question in your head. It's like, I'm not good enough. Well, how could I get better at that? Or how could I learn more about that?
Or even, how good do I have to be? And by whose rules? If you live by your own rules, you can only be your best. And if your best is getting up at 10 o'clock in the morning and going to the gym for half an hour and not 2 hours, that's your best. That's your goal.
Almost like this concept of self-image, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, another thing, we mentioned about Tony Robbins saying, I'm not enough, I'm not loved, right? Mm-hmm. But that also leads into insignificance, which is another one of his human needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, you know that.
Yeah.
It's about self-actualization, which is that you actually have to take a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility. Become responsible, as Brian says, in your development, right? You can't let the world around you govern it. There are things that will impact on it. So insignificance, I think, is a massive thing lately. Yeah. And what I found, I'm starting a support group for just people to come and join next month in the ministry of sound.
Okay.
In the members club, you know it?
Okay, yes, been there a few times.
So they're in the new members club around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm starting a group. You're more than welcome. August the 14th. If you're listening on the radio, check out the page. Will be on my Happy Days page. It's called Tuned Out, the group. It will be just a sharing group. It'll be, possibly loosely aimed at the entertainment industry, but we're not shutting people out because of that, But we want to create a safe space just for people to come and talk exactly about what we're talking about, and how maybe that with someone's knowledge they can change a behavior, or just think differently about something, or just accept that what's going on for them is it going on, and how they interpret it or perceive it. By changing those perceptions, you may be able to deal with it on a better basis without affecting you too badly, because the long-term effect of all this stress is illness. Right, so if you're constantly stressed every day, although it may not be a big amount of cortisol or whatever it is, but you won't, because you're not running it off in the gym every day, maybe, or you're not doing that stuff, and it still turns into cortisone, which is not good. You continue on that, you'll become ill eventually, and all that flu, all the cancers, all the stuff. I'm not saying that's true for everything across the board. I'm not generalising, but often the stress causes this stuff. Yeah. It changes at a cellular level. Arthritis. Yeah. Lots of these, inherently. I mean, I've got arthritis in my hip, but it's actually, I think, getting better. But it's not as bad. But who knows? And I was multi-stressed out a few years ago. Yeah. Really, all the bloody time.
Yeah. Well, I will definitely share the details of that in the show notes and let everyone know about that on the 14th of August. That sounds great. And I know you're doing a lot of seminars and workshops over in Ibiza, or we certainly were last year. And of course, Ibiza and Brandon Block goes hand in hand, right?
Well, we did a couple last year, which was lovely. I think it's somewhere where we have to place it well. It would work there, and it will work again. It was a great thing to do, but as I say, we were just starting out last year, so it was nice to be able to do some. I want to be IMNS next year. I'm going to gate crash. I'm going to do Brit Awards there. I'm telling you, I'm going to jump on stage and say, yeah,
brilliant. Exactly. Well, I mean, is there anything that we haven't, because we a new time with Fly Brand, and we could talk for hours and hours about this and all sorts of things, but is there anything that we haven't touched on which you think is an important thing for our listeners right now, and remembering that our listeners are quite possibly stuck in what they see as that 9-to-5 grind, and they're really aspiring to kind of break free and live a life with more fulfillment, waking up every morning, doing something that is for them, that's building their future, rather than in the eyes of someone else and making someone else rich and wealthy and happy.
Right, okay, there's a few things I'm going to say. Firstly, this gets quite emotive for me because it's very hard to accept. Firstly, the first thing you've got to do in the morning is be kind to yourself, right? Be nice, look in the mirror, say you're good, you're lovely, I love you, and it's not vain, it's just reaffirming that you're not a bad person, right? Once you've told yourself you're lovely and wonderful, I think you have to just literally sit down and go, right, how am I thinking today? This is before. First thing, don't pick your bloody phone up, right? Don't do that. If you can spare yourself 10 minutes, if you've got to get up for work and it's a big rush, put your alarm on 10 minutes earlier. If you've got to get the kids ready for school, put your alarm on half hour earlier. Give yourself 10, 15 minutes. That's it. And just sit there, wake up, say to yourself, don't answer the phone. Just say, right, I'm lovely. I mean, affirmation. Just say I'm all right with myself. I'm okay. I am enough. That's fine. Do it every day. And then you just say to yourself, how am I feeling physically? Do I need to change something? How am I feeling mentally? Do I need to change something? How am I feeling emotionally? Am I upset? Am I happy? What do I need to change to make myself happy? Smile. Smile. Right? Regardless how you feel, if you smile, you will, your eyes lift, your brain realizes something's making you happy, and your brain says, right, we're happy. So smile. And on the other thing about the work stuff, if you listen to Brian's thing, I believe firmly, because I've done his goal mapping and become a practitioner, and I achieved all my 8 goals in 6 months by just focusing, right? So I think the fundamental thing here is that if you are unhappy in your job, let's say, I think the thing is you're going to be in a place of fear, of change, of, what can I do? Am I going to be able to do it? All these questions come up, obviously, about new jobs and, finances involved to that, as a career move, as I'm going to affect my relationship at home, all these things. I think what you've got to do is you've got to look at what's the effect on you. And I mean, ask yourself the question, how am I feeling physically, emotionally? Say, when I think about this stuff, how does it impact on me? And if it impacts negatively, then it's not right. And then you have to then take yourself, if you can, back to the present moment and say, right, okay, we know now that's not right. Write it down and say, right, this not felt right. Forget that now. It's written down. That's ready to be taken care of when I'm ready. And go, if you can just say to yourself, right, I'm going to focus right where I am here and now in the present moment. And forget everything and just try hard. Just don't forget about what's happened in the past. Don't forget what's happening in the future. Just get there right now and sit there right there. And if you do that for about 2 minutes, you'll be surprised. Go, wow, I'm in a different world. I'm actually here. I'm present. Then you forgot the past. Then you can say, right, what would I like to do? What's my passion? What do I really want to do in life? What do I want to achieve? It might sound way out, but say it. You never know. You command your subconscious. It might go, right, we're going to go and get it. It might, and your passion. So firstly, be good to yourself. Be kind. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up about anything. You're doing your best, whatever you do. And that's your best. And if it's not, and this is why it's so difficult, because you think, well, why is my best not as good as their best? It's not, because they're someone else. Mm-hmm. They're completely different. Forget about them.
Yeah.
Be good to you. Be good to your own best, and that's it. There's a great book called The Four Agreements.
Okay.
It's lovely to read, lovely to listen to. It's like an old Mayan or Aztec preaching thing. But it's very lovely. The guy who narrates it is like an American Indian, I think. But it's got that very lovely tones, and it's just about, the 4 agreements are: do your best, always have integrity, always keep to your word, do your best, don't gossip, and don't take things personally.
Yeah.
Think about those 4 things. Think about that. Just think about each one at a time.
I like that.
And if you did each one of them, how much effect that would change your whole life. If you didn't take things personally ever, and that would mean it's other people's stuff, which is true often, right? If you don't lie and your integrity, you have your word, you've got nothing to be fearful of. You're just you. If you do your best whenever you can, that's your best. And then if you don't gossip, then you don't start the tittle tattle in your head.
Yeah. No, I like that, and I think those are fantastic words to leave us on, Brandon. And reason why I love doing these podcasts, it's almost like a bit of a guilty pleasure for me to be able to invite the people that I really want to speak to and learn from. And I'll tell you what, it's funny, Brandon, because it was back in 1998 that I was actually sending you test pressings on a bike when you and Alex were doing your Kiss FM on a Friday afternoon. I'll tell you what, that was my start to the weekend back then. And 20 years later, to think that I'd be chatting with you on Escape the Rat Race Radio. I would never have thought it back then. But
it's a completely different subject.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Brandon, thanks so much for sharing everything today. And I know you're a busy man, and you're helping so many people now with what you're doing and your team at Happy Days. And we'll share all the links. If anyone wants to check out Happy Days, where's the best place for them to go?
Right, so basically we've got the Facebook page at the moment, which is obviously Happy Days for everyone. If anyone, just message us on there. You can get me on Facebook. We've got the website, the Happy Hub, which I was explaining how it's going to work. It's going to be a hub where people can subscribe and, get content from many, many practitioners, many, from NLP through to holistic practitioners, pranic healing, CBT, just a whole world of well-being, basically. And these people are there too if you want to take them on. And pretty much, there's a new buzzword is coaching, isn't it? And it's actually, I think if you change coaching to supporting, it's a much easier way to swallow it. But you need support. You can't do everything on your own. So, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it wasn't built by one person. It was built by many people working together. So I think the key is to go and reach out. I mean, I'm creating this new group, and I've asked 10 people or 5 people already who I've just spoken to who have wonderful stories. And I think, come along, be part of it. It's not about, I just want to make a community so people feel better on a daily basis, because, I have moments, we all do. And, I'm able, thank God, that I'm, able to get out of them. And that people aren't, and I can do that because I practice now. So I can choose whether I feel a certain way, which is a great practice. But, I can, you can even stop my heart arrhythmia now. It used to go out of beat a lot. And now I know how to change it, get it back into beat.
Well, that's the DJ skill in you, isn't it?
Don't start that. Is that your heart?
Brandon, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, all right? And I really, really look forward to next time we get to hook up.
Chris, mate, I can't tell you how lovely it's been talking to you. It's really good to see you again.